So if you're a triathlete and through this holiday season, you feel like you missed a workout, maybe you missed two workouts, maybe three, you had travel obligations, you had family obligations, you had all of this holiday stuff going on, and you're just feeling exhausted. But then you start blaming yourself because you're like, oh, I really should have gotten up and done that run yesterday morning. Or, oh, I really should have, done a little bit of strength training to prepare me for going into, the new year. Well, what do? Right? And so I am a triathlon coach. I've been a doctor of physical therapy since 2014, and I've been a triathlete for over 22 years now. So I've been there, done that. I've had seasons where I'm really on it and I'm so consistent, even through the holiday season. I've had seasons where, hey, life got busy, I had to work, like I couldn't get out of it, and I just didn't have the time to get it in. So I've kind of gone through the whole spectrum personally. And so, what I can tell you from all of my experiences as being a triathlete, a physical therapist, and a coach is that don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, because you know what happens when you do worry about it. It increases your stress level, your anxiety. I mean, it can just make you feel even worse if you do worry about it. What can you do about it now? The best thing to do about it now, today's a new day. Today's a new day. Let's get started with something. Now, most triathletes in this situation, uh, because we are very goal oriented and kind of worried about, oh, I need to be ready for that next race, right? So a lot of times triathletes, and I've done this before too, you miss like 2 or 3 days, and then you try to stack all of those workouts like almost into that next day. I'm going to swim, the pool's open, I'm going to bike, I'm going to run, I'm going to do some strength, right? And let's say you do all of those things, because we can do all of those things in one day. And a lot of times we do all of those things in one day on race day, right? But then afterwards, you're exhausted, right? And then you kind of fall into this cycle where you take some time off, you get back at it, you go too aggressively, you do too much, and then you get exhausted again. You take some time off, and then you get back into the cycle. Or even worse, on those days that you're doing so much, like you took a couple of days off, you had a lighter load the week before, then you did all of this stuff. And if you hadn't been consistently training and then all of a sudden do all of these things, you're setting yourself up for injury. So let me tell you a little bit about my process and how I help my athletes through this holiday season, or anytime like maybe they got sick, they had to take some time off. So I want to start with a little bit of education about how training plans are programmed. Typically, if you have a race, let's say your race is, 20 weeks out. So we're going to create an annual training program where we've got, it figured out month by month. What are we going to focus on? It's not necessarily that one workout that we need to get done. It's really a series of all workouts to create this goal for that specific month, or that specific like 2 or 3 months, to create a training block leading up to your race. So that's why I say don't necessarily fret or worry about the missed one workout. In the grand scheme of things, it's not going to make that big of a difference. Now, a lot of triathletes ask, well, when I do start going back to training again and becoming consistent, what should I do? Like, how much should I do, right? Like, you don't want to get injured by doing too much, but you also don't want to do too little. You want to do what is appropriate for your body. And typically, going by the rule of 10% is a pretty good guideline. And what does that mean? So in week one, let's say you're running 10 miles a week just to keep it simple. Okay, well, next week, let's increase it by 10%. What does that mean? Let's increase it by, let's make it up to 11 miles. And then the next week, a little bit more. And the next week, a little bit more, and kind of gradually progressing week by week until you've increased your mileage to the point where you're comfortable. Um, Training is not exactly linear. So we're going to have weeks where we're going up, and then we're going to have deload weeks for recovery, and then we're going to go up again and deload weeks for recovery typically. And that is actually variable by the athlete, how much load they can tolerate, how healthy they are, and everything like that. So after we've figured out your annual training plan, then we make sure that you're progressively loading maybe an extra 10% each week across all 3 disciplines. Then you can start seeing that consistency building up, and you'll see some pretty good results with that. Now let's talk about the timing of the year. So right now we're in the winter months. Typically for triathletes, this time of year is the quote unquote off season. I mean, down here in Texas, we have some early season races in March, so it's not exactly a full off season. We've got a little bit of base building going on. But typically it's a time where if you miss a couple of workouts, it's not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. Now, if you're someone like my husband who's running the Houston Marathon in a couple of weeks, well, yeah, he shouldn't really be missing any workouts, right? So there's kind of a time and a season for all of these things. Someone who's racing the Houston Marathon as their A race, you are kind of in the throes of your peak mileage weeks. And so with that, you're going to want to increase that amount of load this week. Not so much that you're so fatigued by the time race day comes around, but enough that you're getting the maximum potential out of your training that you can. And then you're going to start to taper down. So this week, we really focused with my husband to make sure that he was getting in his long run days, because honestly, that is the hardest thing to navigate when you've got kids home from school. And like, I work in a hospital, so I've been working this whole week. So we've been trying to figure out when is he going to get those key runs in so that way he can stay consistent leading up to his race, and so he can be healthy on the day of the race. No one wants to go into a marathon untrained, because that's just going to set you up for injury as well. Now, most of us triathletes, let's say you're doing an early season race in March. There's 2 in March down here in Texas. We've got Dallas Little Elm and we've got Galveston. And so if you're doing any of those races, yeah, you want to be pretty consistent at this time of the year. You want to be building up a good solid base. You don't want to be missing too much, but if you do miss a day or two, like, it's not that big of an issue, right? We still have like a good 12 to 15 weeks to train up for those races. And by using that 10% rule based on where your current fitness level is, I assume you've been training in November and October for these races, but using that 10% rule, we're able to progressively increase your mileage to where it needs to be before race day. So you can peak at those couple of weeks before race day, and then you can taper down onto race day, right? So I've been the athlete who has been all or nothing. I've gone through stages of a couple of days off and then ramping up and doing like everything on that day. And I'll tell you, not only was I running into overuse injuries at the time, but I also was running into extreme exhaustion and just complete burnout. So I want to help you prevent that this early season, moving into January. Now, if some of this rings true to you, if you're kind of sick of going through the like cycle of being able to be consistent and then having injuries and then consistency and then having injuries, it could be that you're doing a little bit too much when you start to ramp up. It could also be that you're just not staying as consistent as you really think so. I've had a couple of my athletes say, yeah, I really thought like I was being so consistent. And then once I started training with you, my wife mentioned, you have been really good at all of your training recently, even though their perceived perceived, uh, even though what they perceived is that they were being consistent, but when it came down to putting it all down on paper, they really weren't. So if this kind of rings true to you and you'd like to explore one-on-one coaching, please send me a message. My email is in the notes. If you take a look at my bio, you can always send me an email. I also have a 10-day mobility and stability challenge going on right now. The sale is $9 until the new year, and then the price is going to jump. But we are going to start on January 5th. And for accountability, I'm going to be posting daily on my Instagram. I'll probably post a couple of shorts here on YouTube to help with that accountability as we all go through this program together. It's only 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes of improving your mobility and improving your stability. Think about your ability to stand on one leg. Think of your ability to run on uneven trail surfaces without rolling your ankle. Think about being very stable on your bike or in the arrow position, being able to grab for your water bottle without an issue, riding with one hand. That's more stability. Think about your mobility. A lot of you are really strong and you have like really built up shoulders, but your mobility is crap on your shoulders, right? So you have a hard time getting that elbow up and through in the water for that good recovery technique of swimming. When we talk about mobility, we're thinking getting really down in that aerodynamic position on the bike because maybe your hamstrings are too tight. If they're too tight, you're not going to be able to get in that good aerodynamic position without that back starting to growl at you, right? So I really love this program. I created it last year. It's 10 minutes a day. I feel like that's appropriate for everyone. Um, in the program, it's a 10-minute video. You're going to be working out with me. I'm going to be talking you through all of these exercises and even telling you why it's important to do these specific ones. Because I always think it's better to know why you're doing something. It just hits a little bit differently if you have a purpose to it. So after all of that, I hope I see you guys on the Mobility and Stability Challenge. We're starting January 5th. And if you are interested in learning more about coaching, please contact me, send me an email, and y'all have a great day.